A man hobbles into a McDonald's and walks up to the counter. He proceeds to place an order of 1 hot fudge sundae. The cashier asks him, "Crushed nuts?" "No," he says. "Hip replacement." As Benjamin Franklin once pointed out, nothing is certain except death and taxes. And with taxation until death a certainty, striving to live longer is paramount. Do you not wish to see your country invest its income and prosper? Don't worry, I'm not trying to alienate my American audience, who makes up the largest part of my viewers. I am trying to help you find a silver lining to look forward to. While the average life expectancy for US Americans is 73, Germans on average live to be 81, because they too have something to look forward to: the Fourth Reich. I'm joking, please don't send me to summer camp. On a more serious note, did you know that as of September 2021, approximately 500,000 hip replacement surgeries were performed annually in the United States, while Germany performed over 200,000 each year? In Austria, the number is currently at around 17k. There are, however, no hip replacements in India. Definitely not because I couldn't find any reliable statistics, but because in Indian culture they put you down once you can't walk anymore. Needless to say, hip replacement surgeries are very common, and what's worse, not every injury will require surgery, let alone replacement, or will even get diagnosed. Not everyone has the means or the access to medical professionals. Yet all of them will require recovery and time away from physical activity to some degree. Falls are the second leading cause of unintentional injury deaths worldwide, as opposed to the intentional injury deaths, I assume. Each year, an estimate of 648,000 individuals die from falls globally. So the annual number of hip injuries is much higher, and they statistically increase with age, meaning the older you get, the more likely you will fall, pun intended, into one of these categories. 37.3 million falls that are severe enough to require medical attention occur each year in a population 60 years or older. That's you, and you, in a short while. To make matters worse, this leads to less movement due to the time it requires to heal, and sometimes accompanied by pain that lasts for several months and can even become permanent chronic pain, as was the case with my grandmother, who by the end didn't walk much at all except for her trips to the bed, the kitchen, living room and back. She did still cook though, Odin rest her soul. The older you get, the longer the recovery process. That is, if you do recover, and the higher the consequences. Due to your cardiovascular system suffering from the sedentary lifestyle forced upon you, your heart starts to atrophy, and so do your muscles. Now you're even weaker than before, and rehabilitation can take a long time. Instead of letting it get that far, a 5-minute daily routine can make a world of difference. I'm not exaggerating when I say that hip mobility and strength will help you live longer. Walking is by far the most commonly practiced form of cardio in your later years, including hiking, Nordic walking, or whatever floats your boat. It's not to be underestimated. Now, of course, some of you freak beasts will still be doing calisthenics or annual Ironman for fun, but most of us will mellow out over time. So in addition to traumatizing all of you with statistics and numbers, here's a complete lower body mobility routine to really strengthen your hip flexors and the surrounding musculature, such as your glutes, quadriceps, hamstrings, and calves, while increasing your mobility and flexibility in all of them. This will in turn protect you from what the kids these days would call fall damage and keep your joints healthy. In this case, including your knees and ankles, since your hip flexors are not a separately working system and they all interact with each other in some form or another. Now you can either follow along. I'm doing 4 repetitions for each of these exercises, meaning that the whole routine takes about 4 to 5 minutes, but I do it daily. So you can either increase the amount of repetitions and time and do it just 2 or 3 times a week, or you can do the same thing that I do. Now, without further ado, let's get into the exercises right away. To start out, we need to be able to get into a deep squat position. Now that is very important because that is gonna be the lowest level of acceptable hip mobility that you're gonna have. So if you don't know how to get into a deep squat position, here's a guide up there. So get into the deep squat, bring your shoulders to the inside, open your arms sideways and push your knees backwards. We're gonna hold this exercise statically, or in addition you can hip thrust a little bit the way I am doing right now. Now once we've held statically for 20 to 30 seconds, we're switching between a pike and a deep squat. Now you don't have to be able to touch your toes or even hold your feet, doesn't matter. All we want to do is straighten out our legs and return into the deep squat position just a couple of times to limber up. Now once we've done that and you already know how to deep squat, just shake out your legs a little bit because the coming exercises are going to be a little bit more exhausting. Starting out with bringing both our knees to the ground and doing classic hip thrusts on the floor. When doing hip thrusts, be sure that once you have both knees on the ground to push forward and activate your gluteal muscles to increase the mobility you have in your hip flexors, since those are its antagonists. Now we can move on to diagonal movements by working with one side and bringing one knee to the middle and switching it out. This one's really easy, there's not much else to teach about it. Once we've done that, we're going to start increasing the rotations by bringing both legs on the ground. So one leg moves inwards, the other one sideways. We're gonna turn in our lumbar spine and try to increase the stretch we have on our obliques and on the one-sided hip flexors, and repeat and return. Then we're gonna increase the range of motion by doing the same exercise but bringing our head all the way to the ground into one full rotation. Once you're able to do that, now we can actually increase the range of motion for the past exercises, meaning that you can look for some kind of elevation. It doesn't have to be much, you can start out with one book and increase over time. We're gonna do the same thing for the knee to the middle, and we're gonna do it for the hip thrusts. Now, when we do this for the hip thrusts, for one, you have to be careful not to break your knees by putting them down, and second, you can actually use your hands to return into the deep squat position, because again, this is not about strength, this is about mobility. So all I want you to be able to do is bring both knees to the ground while your feet are in an elevated position. And we can move on to one of my favorite exercises, and one of the exercises that most of my clients hate because it's really exhausting, even though its benefits are great, the Cossack squat. Here we're doing just the classic Cossack squat, and then we move on to trying to push our hips down and moving as low as possible with our hips from one side to the other. This one will move the stretch from the back side of our legs to the inside of our hips and our adductors. Once we've done that, we'll want to sit down into the Cossack all the way. Now this one is a really advanced mobility exercise, so you can again use your hands in the middle to push up and return into the Cossack position, or you can do as I do and just use your core strength. Now here, this is an exercise that we had to learn for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's one of the most amazing hip flexor exercises that I have found. It's basically just shrimp walks, and we're gonna do from one side to the other and repeat this a couple of times. Because this is already our last exercise and we're using it to move around a little bit more and to increase also some strength gains for our legs. Be sure to have both knees on the ground before you move on into the next step with this exercise. Meaning you lunge forward with one leg, you bring a knee to the ground, and then you try to touch both of them to the floor before moving on. Now I hope this was helpful, and I'll see y'all soon. Captain Cairo. Peace out.